I got three incredible player props on Underdog Fantasy, and yesterday I gave out all these plays on YouTube, so hopefully some of you were able to tail. We had a 3 for 3 cash here, 4 for 4 cash here. I mean, we absolutely crushed Underdog Fantasy, pulled out 4,200 bucks. But anyways, in this video, three sharp player props that you should go with tonight, and we're going to go through them. So I've explained this before, but if you have Prize Picks, you should definitely sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Both these platforms work in the same way, right? They're fixed payout platforms. Any three picks you select on Underdog Fantasy, you're getting a 6x payout. Doesn't matter if you take unders, overs, doesn't matter if we switch this to a different pick. Any three pick entry you create, you're getting a 6x payout on Underdog. Now on Prize Picks, you're only getting a 5x payout, right? You take the under, you're still getting a 5x payout. So for Prize Picks, you're only getting a 5x payout for these three pick entries, whereas on Underdog Fantasy, they bump it up to 6x. And this really matters long term as a sharp bettor, right? So three pick entries on Prize Picks are horrible. That's why in all of our, Prize Picks videos, we're always placing these 5-pick flex plays. Whereas on Underdog Fantasy, we're typically placing 3-pick entries or occasionally 4 picks with insurance, right? So regardless, let's go ahead, let's kind of go through strategies for beating Underdog Fantasy, right? So Underdog Fantasy is a platform where they're not changing your payout based on you selecting over or under. So essentially what you want to do is you want to find spots where sportsbooks have one side heavily favored. So for Austin Riley, for example, sportsbooks have his under half of a single, so they have his under, so him less likely to get a single than to get a single. Right? Sportsbooks are telling you DraftKings has more juice towards the under. So they're telling you the under is the favored outcome. So if you had to pick for Austin Riley over or under, you'd prefer to go with under because the sportsbooks are telling you, hey, Austin Riley, he's less likely to get a single than he's less likely to not, or he's more likely to not get a single than to get a single. Right? So we're using sportsbook odds essentially to find value on Underdog Fantasy. But this play isn't enough value. But I'll show you a play with enough value, right? So the first player prop I ended up going with on Underdog Fantasy is right here. Mackenzie Gore under 6.5 strikeouts. And this is from the OddsJam positive expected value tool. So I say this all the time. I never bet with my gut, right? All the plays I'm giving out are just based in data, right? You got to do something different. 99.9% of sports bettors, they bet with their gut. They trust their instinct. And it just doesn't work, right? Like, it's too hard to beat Vegas if you're just using your gut. You have to use data, right? Like, the reason Underdog Fantasy is in business is because most people bet with their gut. They're not betting with data. So you can see the first pick that I'm on is Gore under 6.5 strikeouts. So why do we like it? And what you're going to notice is the sports books have Gore's under heavily favored, right? All the sports books, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetRivers, Caesars, every sportsbook has his under favored, him more likely to go under 6.5 strikeouts as opposed to over. So again, because PrizePicks is a platform where they're not changing your payout based on you selecting over or under, this is a great player prop to go with, right? We want to take Gore under 6.5 strikeouts. All the sportsbooks have his under heavily favored, so this is a profitable play on Underdog. So I've explained before, but you can kind of break down the math of Underdog Fantasy 3-pick entries. And what you're going to end up finding is to be profitable on Underdog Fantasy long term, your picks need to win. So you need to be able to select these over-unders. Like let's say Taylor Fritz over-under in fantasy points. You got to be able to select these over-unders correctly 55.1% of the time. If you can do that, you're going to be profitable on Underdog. If you're able to win 57% of your over-unders, just like this one, you're going to have an ROI long-term of 11.11% on Underdog. So what Underdog assumes is most people don't have an advantage because most people don't have an advantage. Most people bet with their gut. They have no idea what they're doing. So if you look at Taylor Fritz over under 0.5 sets lost, I would have no advantage. If I were just betting with my gut, I'd be 50-50 to hit this, to win or to lose, because I don't know anything about tennis, right? So I'd be hitting this at a rate of 50-50. Most people don't have an advantage, so they can only win their picks roughly 50% of the time, and in that case, they're going to be unprofitable on Underdog. So what Underdog is banking on is most people can't win these over-unders over 55.1% of the time, because it's pretty hard, right? It's pretty hard to win your player. Like, you have to win 55% of your plays, only lose 45%. So you need an advantage. So the OddsJam positive EV tool makes it pretty easy because all this tool does is it scans the sports books, right? It's reading in odds from all the different sports books and then just showing you spots where, hey, you can get this line on Underdog Fantasy, which is a platform that's not going to vary your payout based on you selecting over or under, right? So it's just showing you spots where sports books are telling you, yo, one side's heavily favored, right? Profitable plays. So this play on Mackenzie Gore, all the sports books have his under favored. Some have his under more favored. Like FanDuel has the under more favored than Caesars and DraftKings. But you treat every sports book as a data point, right? So I've explained this before. But if we go ahead and we flip over to a no vig calculator, what this calculator does is it takes a sports book's market and then tells you the win probability for your bet, right? So we know Mackenzie Gore, he's more likely to go under as opposed to over, according to the data, right? According to the sports books that are putting out odds. So every sportsbook setting lines, those are all places you can bet, right? But they're also all data points telling you where a line should be set. So FanDuel has the under at minus 150, right? They have the over at plus 118. So we know the under is going to be winning over 50% of the time. According to FanDuel, the market they're putting out, their model, right? $billion company, really sophisticated company. They're saying, yo, the under is winning 56.67% of the time. Right? If a team is a minus 200 favorite, just as an example, if a team is, let's just imagine the Nuggets were minus 200 tonight. Minus 200 means a 2-1 favorite, 66.67% to win. Plus 200 means a 2-1 underdog, right? 33.33% to win, 1/3 to win the game, plus 200, 2-1 underdog. So long story short, what this calculator does is it takes a sportsbook odds, it takes a sportsbook's market and tells you the win probability for your bet. So Mackenzie Gore, his under on FanDuel is at minus 150. The over is at plus 118. So the under is 56.67% to win, which is higher than 55.51%. So if you're hitting your plays 55.67% of the time, your ROI on underdog is going to be 3.5%. Right? So again, every sportsbook's a data point. So if we put in DraftKings, they're a little less bullish, right? So according to DraftKings, the market they're putting out, they only have the under at minus 145, not 150 like FanDuel does. So they're a little less aggressive on the under. So according to DraftKings, this play is 55.99% to win. So 55.59% to win. So it's still a profitable play. In your underdog entry, just a little less profitable, right? Like your ROI would be slightly lower. So essentially all these books are just data points telling you, hey, this is the win probability for Gore under. And we know to beat Underdog Fantasy, I'm literally just in this spreadsheet, I'll include it in the description. All I'm doing is reverse engineering, the 6x payout and telling you what percentage of your picks you need to win to win long term. Nothing complicated going on here. So long story short, I took Mackenzie Gore under 6.5 strikeouts from the positive EV tool. And here's what I ended up going with. Machado, no single. Gore under 6.5 Ks. Yoshida to record a single. So if you go ahead and you look at DraftKings, just as an example, they have Yoshida's single. So we're looking at player singles, right? They have his over favored, minus 135. His over's pretty heavily favored. So this is a sharp player prop to include in your underdog entry. So again, just all these plays found on the positive EV tool. You just want to hit these bets, in green. Sometimes there's more value on prize picks. I've explained this before. So you can see Vladimir Tarasenko. I'm on his under, right? Sometimes there's more value on prize picks. Sometimes there's more value on underdog fantasy. Like I'm not even sure if this play is available. This play's not even available on prize picks, right? So if you only use prize picks, you're missing out on profitable plays on underdog fantasy like these ones yesterday. These plays weren't available on prize picks. You only have prize picks, you missed out on these profitable plays. But long story short, Gore under 6.5 Ks, Yoshida single, Machado no single. Let's make money.